We are reading Chapter 8, The Potions Masters. Hedwig hadn't brought Harry anything so far. She sometimes flew in to nibble his ear and have a bit of toast before going off to sleep in the owlery with the other school owls. This morning, however, she fluttered down between the marmalade and the sugar bowl and dropped a note on Harry's plate. Harry tore it open at once. "Dear Harry," it said in a very untidy scrawl, "I know you get Friday afternoons off, so would you like to come down and have a cup of tea with me around 3? I want to hear all about your first week. Send an answer back with Hedwig. Hagrid." Harry borrowed Ron's quill and scribbled "yes, please, see you later" on the back of the note and sent Hedwig off again. It was lucky that Harry had tea with Hagrid to look forward to, because the potions lesson turned out to be the worst thing that had happened to him so far. At the start of term banquet, Harry had gotten an idea that Professor Snape disliked him. By the end of the first potion lesson, he knew that he had been wrong. Snape didn't dislike Harry, he hated him. Potions lessons took place down in one of the dungeons. It was colder here than up in the main castle, and would have been quite creepy enough without the pickled animals floating in glass jars all around the walls. Snape, like Flitwick, started the class by taking the register, and like Flitwick, he paused at Harry's name. "Ah, yes," he said softly. "Harry Potter, our new celebrity." Draco Malfoy and his friends Crabbe and Goyle sniggered behind their hands. Snape finished calling the names and looked up at the class. His eyes were black like Hagrid's, but they had none of Hagrid's warmth. They were cold and empty and made you think of dark tunnels. "You are here to learn the subtle science and exact art of potion making," he began. He spoke in barely more than a whisper, but they caught every word. Like Professor McGonagall, Snape had the gift of keeping a class silent without any effort. Here's a picture of Snape. Creepy. As there is little foolish wand waving here, many of you will hardly believe this is magic. I don't expect you will really understand the beauty of soft simmering cauldron with its simmering fumes and the delicate power of liquids that creep through human veins, bewitching the mind, ensnaring the senses. I can teach you how to bottle fame, brew glory, even stop death, if you aren't as big of a bunch of dunderheads as I usually have to teach. More silence followed his speech. Ron and Harry exchanged looks with raised eyebrows. Hermione Granger was on the edge of her seat, looking desperate to start proving that she wasn't a dunderhead. "Potter," said Snape suddenly, "what would I get if I added powdered root of apostol to infusion of wormwood?" Powdered root of what? Harry glanced at Ron, who looked as stumped as he was. Hermione's hand shot straight in the air. "I don't know, sir." Snape's lip curled into a sneer. "Tut-tut, fame isn't everything." He ignored Hermione's hand. "Let's try again. Potter, where would you look if I told you to find me a bezoar?" Hermione stretched her hand as high into the air as it would go without her leaving her seat, but Harry didn't have the faintest idea what a bezoar was. He tried not to look at Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle, who were shaking with laughter. "I don't know, sir." "Thought you wouldn't open a book before coming, huh, Potter?" Harry forced himself to keep looking straight into the cold eyes. He had looked through his book at the Dursleys, but did Snape expect him to remember everything in 1,000 magical herbs and fungi? Snape was still ignoring Hermione's quivering hand. "What is the difference, Potter, between monkshood and wolfsbane?" At this, Hermione stood up, her hand stretching towards the dungeon ceiling. "I don't know," said Harry quietly. "I think Hermione does, though. Why don't you try her?" A few people laughed. Harry caught Seamus's eyes, and Seamus winked. Snape, however, was not pleased. "Sit down," he snapped at Hermione. "For your information, Potter, a Fostel and Wormwood make a sleeping potion so powerful it is known as Draught of Living Death. A bezoar is a stone taken from the stomach of a goat, and it will save you from most poisons. As for monkshood and wolfsbane, they are the same plant, which goes by the name of aconite. Well, Why aren't you all writing this down? There was a sudden rummaging of quills and parchment. Over the noise, Snape said, "And a point will be taken for Gryffindor for your cheek, Potter." Things did not improve for Gryffindors as the potions lessons continued. Snape put them all into pairs and set them up, mixing up a simple potion to cure boils. He swept around in his long black coat, watching them weigh dried nettles and crush snake fangs, criticizing almost everyone except for Malfoy, who he seemed to like. He was just telling everyone to look at the perfect way Malfoy had stewed his horned slugs when clouds of acid green smoke and a loud hissing filled the dungeon. Neville somehow managed to melt Seamus's cauldron into a twisted blob, and their potion was seeping onto the stone floor, burning holes into people's shoes. Within seconds, the whole class was standing on their stools while Neville, who had been drenched in potion when the cauldron collapsed, moaned in pain and as angry red boils sprang up all over his arms and legs. "Idiot boy," snarled Snape, clearing the potion away with one wave of his wand. "I suppose you added the porcupine quills before taking the cauldron from the fire?" Neville whimpered as boils started to pop up all over his nose. "Take him to the hospital wing," Snape spat at Seamus. Then he rounded on Harry and Ron, who had been working next to Neville. "You, Potter, why didn't you tell him not to add the quills? Thought you'd make him look good if he got it wrong, did you? That's another point you've lost for Gryffindor." All right, we will stop there and then continue.